We would like to greet you a great morning to our business viewers in ASEAN, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei Darussalam. I'm Erwin Suryabrata, this time on Market Now First Station on special business talk with U.S. Embassy in Indonesia. As we know, relationship between Indonesia and the United States of America began to develop for last years, marked by the signing of the United States-Indonesia Strategic Partnership Agreement. After that, diplomatic relations, especially economic ties between the two countries, is increasing, including in the economic field. Here is the report for you.
Two years ago, President Obama announced the National Export Initiative, or NEI, which aims to double U.S. exports. With over 240 million citizens, the United States identified Indonesia as a priority market for U.S. exports. Based on the data from United States Trade Representative, U.S. goods and services trade with Indonesia totaled $29 billion in 2012. Exports totaled $10 billion and imports totaled $18 billion. Indonesia is 28th largest goods trading partner for the U.S. with $28 billion in total during 2013. The U.S. has important economic, commercial, and security interests in Indonesia. Relations between Indonesia and the U.S. are generally positive and have advanced since the election of Presiden Yudhoyono in 2004. In October last year, President Joko Widodo visited Washington, D.C. to meet the President Obama at the White House and meetings with senior figures of the U.S. government, the U.S. Congress, and business leaders. Data from the Investment Coordinating Board, or BKPM, shows investment realization in foreign direct investment, or FDI, from U.S. reached $358 million, with 263 projects since January to June 2016, and only quarter 2 reached 347 with 196 projects.
In Singapore, we are airing through StarHub Asia Channel 121 in Singapore, Malaysia, Astro Malaysia, Brunei Darussalam, Crystal Astro Brunei. And now we are having Mr. Brian McFeeters, his Charge d'Affaires, U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. Good morning to you, Charge McFeeters. Really appreciate for your time. This is very interesting when we talk about this particular subject, the U.S.-Indonesia economic ties. How is that progressing when we talk about the bilateral partnership has been built and strengthened by the two countries so far?
Right. I think the point to make is that we have a long-term and very stable, sustained both trade and investment relationship between the United States and Indonesia. Particularly on investment, we have a very active American Chamber of Commerce here, and they estimate that the total value of cumulative U.S. investment, so going back over time, but including the current value, is about $65 billion. So that, according to their studies, that makes the U.S. the leading foreign investor in Indonesia. And they go on to say that there are a number of U.S. companies who are willing to put in almost that equivalent amount, another $50 to $60 billion in Indonesia, because they see the growth and the potential of Indonesia. So that's on the investment side. And then on the trade side, we have a pretty significant relationship, about $28 billion in trade a year. I think in terms of the size of Indonesia's economy, the trade relationship could be bigger. So we're looking for more opportunities to trade in both directions.
Okay, for the next session, we're going to talk about how to maintain this kind of business and also relationship sustainability between the two countries.
Right.
Make sure you stay with our special dialogue with the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. We'll be back only on IDX channel. We're watching special business talk with U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, still with Charge d'Affaires from U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, Mr. Brian McFeeters. What makes the United States of America, economically and business speaking, interested in Indonesia? Of course, apart from this 240 million something citizens, we are dominated by the productive age as well.
Right. No, I think that's a key factor. Indonesia is a big economy on its own, growing middle class, seen as a large market. But from the U.S. point of view, American companies also look at ASEAN. So they see 240 million people in Indonesia, but they also see 500 million plus in ASEAN and the ASEAN economic community, increasing integration. So American companies are looking at both aspects when they look at Indonesia.
Now we are living in this Asian economic community. Everything is integrated, business speaking and economically speaking as well. How do you see, how relevant this kind of economic integration and how far it will benefit Southeast Asia as a region? We happen also to be aired through ASEAN. So.
Right. No, I think from the U.S. point of view, it's very exciting. We have relationships, individual trade and investment relationships with the ASEAN countries, but increasingly companies, I talk to companies that say, they want to set up operations one place. Maybe it'll be Bangkok, maybe it'll be Jakarta, but they want to set up operations one place and service all of ASEAN, and the economic integration makes that possible to the extent it is complete. It's not complete yet, but it will make it possible.
Indonesia as a part of ASEAN. By the way, you began serving as Deputy Chief Mission at U.S. Embassy, Jakarta, from August 2015. Now, after knowing a lot about Indonesia, following your assignment as Economic Minister Counselor as well before, how do you see what could be the main economic driver for Indonesia so we can maintain our sustainability and our economic strength?
Right. I think I've been working on Indonesia off and on for 20 years, so I've seen a lot of development. Certainly on the government side, you have a much more dynamic and democratic government, and that's one of the values that we share. So Americans look at Indonesia as, apart from the economics picture, they look at Indonesia as a place with shared values. Democracy, freedom of the press, a respect for religious diversity, the respect for human rights. So American companies, they want to go somewhere where the values are the same, and they also want to do business. So that's the basic picture that makes them attracted to Indonesia. And then the dynamism. You have an economy that's increasing, building in different areas. You have a lot of people that are studying abroad and bringing back talent. So I think there's a lot of dynamism in Indonesia that American companies are interested in.
Once we talk or say the word the United States of America, people always associate it with democracy. Many are saying that we are still in the middle of building our democracy. We are still even in the initial stage of building our democracy.
Right.
Where do you see we are heading when we talk about the democracy in Asia so we can go in line with the economic development as well?
Well, I think there's been a lot of exciting developments, very positive developments. Indonesia's elections are seen as world-class. You have international observers here that really praise the elections. The fact that you have decentralization, so you have more voices on the local, provincial, not only provincial, but kabupaten level. So you have democracy, that's spread across the country. Frankly speaking, from the U.S. company point of view, there are still concerns about rule of law, the sanctity of contracts. They want a stable and predictable business environment, which sometimes they have a bit of issue with in Indonesia. So that's something that they want to have more attention to.
All right, back to business talk. As you can see, viewers, we have some data talking about investment realization based on country of origin. This is coming from January through June 2016. We can see the presence of the United States of America in Indonesia as well. Country, the first one is Singapore. The investment is 4,892 million US dollars, followed by Japan, Hong Kong, China, the Netherlands, and also USA on 358 million US dollar. If you see the data from the Investment Coordinating Board, BKPM, this investment realization in foreign direct investment, FDI from USA reached 358 million US dollars with about 263 projects. And only quarter two, the second quarter, reached 347 with 196 projects. If you compare, back in business years 2015, the value of the United States investment in Indonesia had reached 893.2 million US dollars with about, back then, it's 261 projects, mostly in the mining sector. To strengthen this business and economic relations, what sector need to be focused on nowadays, considering the global economic recovery situation also?
Well, you were right in the figures you cited that the major focus of existing U.S. investment has been in the mining and extractive sectors. We have Freeport that employs about 30,000 Indonesian workers. We have other U.S. companies on the energy and mining side. But there's also new developments. So we have some of the high-tech companies. Google is here. planning to do some investment, including, my understanding is training 100,000 Indonesian developers how to make apps, right? We all would like to be part of that training, I think. And then I understand that Apple is also coming in to do some similar app training. So, you have the kind of the existing economic relationship, the stable U.S. companies, but you also have startups. You have a U.S. investment firm is coming in to invest in Gojek. So you have new economic developments that are also involving U.S. companies as well.
As Charge McFeeters said, data from BKPM also said, and it has identified U.S. investors' interest in creative economy sectors is increasing significantly in Indonesia. They're interested to build like animation studios and work closely with local partners.
Right.
How is it progressing? When we talk about the current global economic situation, where is the position of the startup industry? Seems like people still take it for granted, even though it is pretty obvious they offer so many business prospects and so promising. Later on, we can learn from Google and other from the Silicon Valley.
Right, right. No, I think there are prospects for increasing U.S. involvement in startups. The only thing I have to mention is that U.S. companies they're sometimes a little bit deterred by the investment rules in Indonesia. So sometimes they want to invest, and the sector's not completely open. Now, the negative investment list, so-called restrictive investment list, has recently been revised, and that's opened up more, so that's a positive development. But I guess one thing that the Indonesian government could do that would be helpful is to sit down with the existing U.S. investors. They've all been here a long time. They know the conditions. They all can potentially bring in new money for startups and for other things. But I think they would like to have a conversation with the government of Indonesia about what the conditions are, how the conditions could be improved, and how the investment climate could continue to build up.
To have a strong relationship, to create this kind of best friend relationship, we need to have something in common. We need to be on the same boat. And when we talk about to be on the same boat, we need to similarize our vision regarding this kind of regulatory framework and set of regulation environment as well.
Right.
What needs to be simplified when we talk about answering the global economic challenge regarding economic regulation in every country, not only Indonesia? What's something we need to change now?
Well, the overall framework for increased economic engagement in Asia from the United States point of view and the partner countries is TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and that's a very large and detailed agreement. But if you look at the essence of it, it's about common rules for things like investor rules, worker rights, environmental protection. It's basically trying to let's all play by the same rules, have the same rule book, and then an investor can go to, maybe they can go to Vietnam, maybe they can go to Indonesia, maybe they go to the Philippines if Indonesia and the Philippines decide to take part. And then you have a kind of a common investment framework across the board. When I talk to businesses, they want a system that's understandable and predictable. They don't want to have things that happen that they didn't know would happen because then they can't plan.
Right, we are going to continue our discussion after this one. Right. Make sure you are still with us, Special Dialogue Business Talk with U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. We'll be back only on IDX channel. Back again on Special Dialogue Business Talk with U.S. Embassy in Jakarta with Charge d'Affaires from U.S. Embassy Jakarta, Mr. Brian McFeeters. It is very great that you start talking about TPP. We've been wondering about this TPP thing and how it works. But above all, generally speaking, when we talk about this kind of a relationship and then trade bilateral relationship as well, we start also questioning about this. We still have this kind of global interests. We can benefit it together. But we can still protect our own nation. Right. How liberal can we be when we talk about this kind of trade relationship with other countries, using the case study of the United States and so many countries in the world, given the current situations?
Right. The same concerns come up in the United States. People talk about free trade agreements, and sometimes they get nervous and they say, "Oh, I'm going to lose my job."
Exactly.
And there are some job dislocations. But what we found in the United States, we've had a big emphasis on exports under the President Obama administration. Exports have gone up by a record amount. So it's about 2.3 trillion, a record amount of exports. And what we find is that supports about 11 million new jobs. And the thing about export-related jobs is they tend to be better than the average job. They're better paid. They have better advancement prospects. So I think people in the United States, on balance, see that overall, if you have an open trading relationship, you have more imports, but that's okay because you also have more exports. You have more interchange in both directions.
All right. I believe you have noted about how many American business players operating their business here in Indonesia. What it takes actually to encourage them more to invest and stay in Indonesia, given the business environment that we have nowadays. We happen also to be aired from the trading floor in Indonesia Stock Exchange. What it takes actually to encourage them to keep coming to Indonesia, and probably also to attract Indonesian business players to invest in the United States of America.
Right, good question. I think the U.S. investors are very interested in IDX. I understand they're some of the leading, maybe the top 5 leading investors in terms of share, market participation here. In general, the U.S. investors maybe are interested in slightly larger stock issuances. If they're too small, that they might find that they're not too interested. But from the U.S. investors' point of view, they're looking around at the world and they're saying they want to balance their portfolio. Not all in the U.S., some in Europe, some in Asia. So Indonesia becomes part of that diversification picture. And then I think you mentioned there are a number of Indonesian companies, and I guess there are going to be more that are co-listed on both exchanges, and that presents more opportunity for financial investment. So I think it'll grow. I think that'll grow, yeah.
Speaking about providing conducive business environment, the Indonesian government just released a new negative investment list earlier this month that allows greater foreign ownership in several business sectors. How measurable is it when you talk about the progress after this law or regulation being enacted by the government? Do you see more and more American business players coming into Indonesia?
The American companies that are looking at that list are interested. I think they're looking for a little more detail, but there's certain areas that are quite interesting. Cold storage, movies, pharmaceuticals, those are all areas where existing U.S. companies want to do more, and potentially new U.S. companies would come in. So they're looking to find out, maybe a little more detail about what exactly the rules are. But that's an area those are areas that they certainly want to explore.
This is also main important question would like to ask you, Dr. McFeeters. What kind of potential disruptions that we have to be really wise on and very careful in dealing with it, that can potentially perhaps disrupt our good relationship so far?
Right. I mean, you have to be concerned about that. The world economy went through a lot of financial trauma in 2008. In some senses, businesses are still recovering from that, especially in Europe. So you always have to kind of watch the financial stability. In the U.S. point of view, we're trying to keep things stable around the world. Commodity prices are something to be watched. We have certain effectors. When the price of oil goes too high, that has a certain effect. When it goes too low, that has a certain effect. So I think those are all. We all operate in a world market where things can be volatile. But I think I would go back to U.S. investors in Indonesia have been here a long time. They employ, I think, a total of about 100,000 workers. So they're a big contributor to the Indonesian economy, and they plan to stay here and grow. They want to grow if they can.
The other main reason to have you here is also every one of us, the Indonesian people, even the ASEAN, we expect the new captain of the United States of America. Apart from who will be the captain later on in the United States, how do you foresee a new relationship between Indonesia and America that can be built, the United States of America?
Right. Now, of course, the details of what a new president would do is up to that president, so I can't predict that. But what I can say is, in general, foreign policy, especially foreign economic policy, tends to be very continuous. We have bipartisan support in the United States for strong economic and political and people-to-people relations with Indonesia. So we're going to continue to do the things that we've been doing, not only on the economic side, but also people-to-people. We're trying to get more students, college-age students, to go to the United States and to come from Indonesia to here. We're doing more interchanges with civic society. We're doing more, medical research together and things like that. So we're going to continue that whole broad range of activities. And I wouldn't think that a new president would change that a lot. Maybe adjust it somewhat.
I see. Early on, we have business talk show. We talk also with New York Stock Exchange. The main title is pretty interesting. We talk about putting our faith back into the United States of America. Maybe representing, or maybe speaking on behalf of American people, what do Americans expect from their new captain soon? We are going to have a new leader in the United States of America. What new America we can also expect?
Right. Well, I think, again, probably more, on the foreign policy side. I work on the foreign policy side. On that, you expect broad continuity of, if you have a strong relationship with a country like Indonesia, you expect very much to keep it and to build on it. More generally, you want the president to be very strong domestically, be helping the U.S. economy, helping the U.S. education system. So I think it's probably the same desires that people have now of the current president, they continue to have of the new president, and it's just a matter of that president organizing the government to meet those needs. So it's the things that people want are continuous.
Okay, after the United States of America, what things we can expect from the future Indonesia? How do you outlook Indonesia regarding our economic progress and strength as well?
I think there are studies showing that the middle class in Indonesia is going to grow significantly. I've seen that myself in the years that I've been working here. So I think you have a continuous economic, not only economic, but also academic and know-how adjustment, growth in Indonesia. More people with more talent. And U.S. companies, that's why companies like Google and Apple are here. They're looking for the best talent around the world, and if they can find some in Indonesia, they'll be delighted. So I think you have a continuous, dynamic growth of Indonesia-U.S. relations on the economic side, and also ASEAN, right? So the U.S. is looking at both of those.
Okay. The presence of the United States of America Embassy in Jakarta, what strategic position actually it can place? It happens to be very close in the same neighborhood with our earlier office, but sometimes people still wonder, what can we do with the United States of America in Indonesia, in Jakarta?
Right. No, I'm glad you asked that question. This is one of our largest embassies here, reflecting the importance of the relationship. We have about a dozen U.S. departments involved here. Everything from the State Department, where I work for, but also our Agriculture Department is here trying to do things. Our Commerce Department is here. Defense Department. We have partnerships in a number of areas, and we're trying to build all of those. So, like I said, more educational exchange, more exchanges between scientists on research areas. It's a partnership that more and more involves not only government to government but people to people. So we do a lot of things with schools and with students. We have professional athletes here to give clinics on basketball, things like that. So we're trying to do a variety of projects that each time increase the level of partnership between our two countries.
I'm glad you mentioned the word school. Human capital. We're also in the process of building a very ideal human capital needed to build our economy as well. What potential possible cooperation can be built between Indonesia and the United States through the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta?
That's a very strong area of emphasis. I had the privilege about 2 weeks ago of hosting 85 Indonesian high school students, aged 16 and 17, who are going off to the U.S. to study 1 year in U.S. high school. They were very impressive, very good English speakers. I think they're going to come back and be future Indonesian leaders. That's on the high school level. We have about 8,300 college-age Indonesians studying in the United States. We'd like that to be much more. We'd like to double or triple it. And we want U.S. students to come to Indonesia as well. They learn so much, about the culture, about the environment. So we're trying to increase that, the educational exchanges both directions. We have a few scholarships. We have At Amerika here, which is our cultural center. We have programs virtually every day, mainly for young Indonesians. We have a free Education USA advisory service. People can come in and find out about all the options for study in the United States. So big priority, education. Yeah.
I see. To sum up our conversation, sir, with President Obama leaving the office soon, what kind of homework we still need to work together?
Well, I think we need to keep doing the same things that we're doing. Frankly, Indonesia is not well known enough in the United States. We need more, both regular Americans and senior Americans, to know more about Indonesia. So as chargé, I try to encourage senior American officials to come out here, and we have some coming out. And in the other direction, we try to have a lot of visits, in both directions, to keep the level of understanding going up. But like I say, it's beyond government. It's also people to people. So educational exchanges and cultural exchanges. We just try to keep building on all those areas. To
make Indonesia known more by the American.
Right.
Chargé d'Affaires from U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, Mr. Brian McFeeters, thank you so much for your time. Best luck for this good, strong relationship between Indonesia and the United States of America.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
It was our special dialogue with Chargé d'Affaires from U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, Mr. Brian McFeeters. Make sure you are still with us. Market Now will be back soon. After this one, you are watching IDX channel.